This is Rob Tebbutt for Boxing Social. Delighted to be joined, as always, by Shane McGuigan. We're at McGuigan's gym in Wandsworth, ahead of Martin Piccoli, Michael Hunter, and you've got a few fighters on the card, haven't you, Shane?
I've got a few, yeah. Lee is boxing for a Commonwealth title. I might do a Kevin Johnson on your ass. Do you want me to do it? Yeah, go on, I'll start rapping as well. So Lee's boxing for a Commonwealth title in his 5th fight. We've got Chantelle defending her IBO, and she's also fighting for the WBC silver title as well. So going to push us into the position to fight Pursoon for the world title. And then BILLAM-SMITH is fighting for a Commonwealth title eliminator against Yumi and Robin Dupree. There you go.
We can have it back now. Nice one. So always busy. Always, every time I speak to you, you've got a new fight coming up. You've just come back from a fight. What's it like now? You're back here, you're busy, of course you've got Josh Taylor in a few weeks' time as well. What's it like sort of grounding yourself ahead of this fight at the weekend when you've got 3 fighters on the bill?
It's just another challenge. I'm used to having a lot of people on the bill, especially with the cyclone shows. They're at different stages of their career, but they're all now in championship fights, championship distance. So they're gonna need a little bit more time to warm up and stuff like that. But it's another challenge. And to be honest, they're all in fights that I'm very confident that they're going to win. Good tests, but fights that I feel like they can win. So. It's just I'm busy, but they've all been pushing each other on in camp, and we've got Josh now in November the 3rd, so that's the last sort of one. But Luke Campbell's going to be back in the gym next week, so he can help Josh out for the remainder of his camp, because Luke's probably going to be out in middle of December.
Let's just start off with Lee McGREGOR, as you say, sort of moving into championship territory now. It's his 5th fight, I believe. He's boxing for a Commonwealth title, going the 12 rounds. What's it been like to prepare him for this fight? How has it been different, if at all, compared to his other fights to this point?
He's around guys that are fighting in title fights all the time. So I would rather him fight 3 or 4 fights against a journeyman, which is what he's done, and then step up to championship level and learn on the distance against people that he has a higher chance of beating. But he can, if he makes mistakes, he can address them. And he's got the distance to go out there and think and get used to boxing over 12 rounds and setting things up and working and building on each round. It's something that a lot of people don't do. They just go and fight 15 fights against people that they can beat over a shorter distance, i.e. 6 to 8 rounds. If you get dropped in the first round by a clumsy shot, you're already 2 rounds down. You've got 5 rounds to go. You've got to win every single round. Do you know what I mean? You can't give away another round. You might start forcing it, walking on to even more stupid shots. It's just this is a different sport to the amateurs. You've got to make sure you're learning over the distance, and that's why we've done the same thing with Josh Taylor. We're going to do the same thing with Lee McGREGOR. He'll have more fights at this level, in my opinion, and before he steps up to world level. But there's a massive golfing class between the Commonwealth, British, and then the world champions of the likes of Inoue, Burnett, Tete as well. So we can call him Pete. Pele. Let's do it. Go on.
Yeah, moving on. Tell me a little bit about Thomas Asomba. He's somebody who's boxed at a good level, boxed for the English, boxed for the Commonwealth, but at a lighter weight. Lee is a massive bantamweight. Do you think that's going to be telling when they face off on Saturday?
Yeah, but if you look at Asomba, he's short, but he's got that man strength. He's been to 2 Olympics as well, so he can mix it at distance as well. Like he's a real hard fight, but he's predictable, and I believe I'm working with one of the future stars not in the bantamweight division. I believe I'm working with one of the future stars in boxing. I'm so confident in him. I'm not gonna. We're not trying to take silly risks, unnecessary risks for him. But the professional boxing in Britain is it's in such a thriving place right now. You're gonna have to fight, good fighters and make minor statements to develop a brand. And you're 21 years of age. He's got a long career ahead of him. But I want him to be in title fights. I want him to make himself a load of money and win world titles and go on. So Somba's is a great fight for Lee at this stage. He's a sort of seasoned guy. He's got a good right hand. definitely heavy-handed, but he's pretty predictable. So it's gonna suit Lee down to a T. Lee's massive for the weight, but does it pretty easy. You know what I mean? Because he's young, but he ain't gonna stay at that weight forever. So we need to win a couple of titles and then move up.
Now, you just alluded to it, so we'll speak about it now. Bantamweight World Boxing Super Series. We saw the start of that last week. Naoya Inoue blitzing Payano in 70 seconds. You're somebody who watches a lot of boxing. You're somebody who has a keen understanding. I'm sure you don't need me to validate that for you. But what do you make of Naoya Inoue, and particularly his performance last weekend? How good is he, and what do you see from him from a coach's point of view?
I mean, what I would say is his balance is amazing, and he can generate power on the spot. He doesn't look for it. That shot was speed, power. I mean, it was a phenomenal shot. But he's done it to so many people. They called him the monster. Do you know what? My brother Jake says to me, this guy called Inoue, you should go and watch him on YouTube. A good 4 years ago, whatever it was, 3 years ago. I'm like, who's this guy? And I started watching him, and wow, what a fighter. And I thought size would have been his nemesis as he started moving up, but he's carrying his power. He's kind of got that Nonito Donaire about him. He's able to just jump up and still knock people out. So, but he's a lot younger and fresher. So I think we're going to be in for a treat watching that guy for the next couple of years, because he's going to take them all out, in my opinion.
So from what you're saying there, I mean, I'd assume that you class him as the favourite in what is still a very stacked World Boxing Super Series tournament.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's the favourite. I think Tete's also. He's a phenomenal fighter as well. Massive for the weight, but got great southpaw. Sort of drops back. That uppercut he caught Butler with. But have we seen? We've seen the best of him there. Do you know what I mean? In his last performance, I thought maybe he's looking a little bit. Maybe he's trying to look bad on the Belfast undercard, so people can sort of think Burnett would fight him, and then he was, and then he'd obviously turn it on against Burnett. But I don't know. It's just I don't know. Maybe Stars make fights with that guy. Maybe he looks brilliant against guys that walk into him, but not so good when people keep it at a distance. So I think I'm going to favour Inoue to win the tournament, but also I think he's the best in that division.
Chris BILLAM-SMITH, another step up. Boxers Robin Dupree. Robin Dupree is somebody we've seen in the ring before. Didn't see him in the ring today at the workout, but anyway, moving on. How difficult a fight is that for Chris, and what are you looking to see from him this Saturday?
It's a good step up for him at this stage. He boxed a really tough opponent in his last fight. It took him 8 rounds, and it was such a high fought, sort of high pace. Lots of big shots coming in. Really showed a lot about how much Chris has developed in such a short space of time. So, this is a good fight for him. Dupree's sort of like, he's skillful. Obviously knows how to box, knows his way around the ring, but size is going to be a big factor. He probably should be a light heavyweight, maybe even a super middleweight. If he really took himself seriously, Robin Dupree. But and I think he's going to be tricky and awkward early. But as we saw with Luke Watkins, he got taken out after I think it was about 4 or 5 rounds, and I think it might even be. I wouldn't say it would be sooner, but it will be a similar outcome. It will definitely be a BILLAM-SMITH stoppage, I think.
Now, I've seen bits and pieces of Chris in the gym. I've also watched his last few public workouts and fights. He seems to me like he's punching harder now. Is that something that you'd agree with?
I think so. I think my arms would be say the same thing as well. His big lump. He did a lot by himself as an amateur. He winged it a lot. He didn't have a good amateur gym to sort of learn off. He was the sort of king of the gym. And now he's in a gym that he's able to watch certain people, different techniques. Everyone's got quite different styles in this gym, so he's transferring his weight a lot better. He's also sparring much better opposition as well, getting quality sparring and okay pad work as well. He's so he's learning how to roll, punch, transfer his weight, stay low when he's punching, and it's all coming together for him.
And finally on the card, you've got Chantelle Cameron. I just said this to her on camera. Every time I sit down with Chantelle, she's not boxing the person she's supposed to box. From a fighter's point of view, she said to me that she's kind of getting used to it now. But from a trainer's point of view, how difficult is that to have that kind of recurring theme when you're preparing a boxer?
It's frustrating, you know, and I kind of started to gather it because Jake and Blaine were telling me, you know, Santos, what's her name? Santana's. She wasn't getting her visa in time, and you know, she was playing up. She wouldn't go and get a visa sorted, and so I thought, okay, cool. Well, it's another one of those. But you got to prepare yourself for that. And she's had it a few times with opponents pulling out. She's really, like, let's be honest, the most feared opponent in the lightweight division. You know, you ain't gonna get them. You ain't going to get the exposure that you get boxing Katie Taylor and losing to Katie Taylor. It's like, well, why would I want to lose to Chantelle and get stopped and get beaten up when I can wait for a fight against Katie Taylor and get, you know, a little bit more credit? But so it's tough for us to, you know, to match her and get her fights. And but you know, McCaskill's just won a world title at 140. This is for the WBC silver. Going to force the fight with Bassoon if she doesn't want to fight us. We got other options out there, and you know, Chantelle's willing to take these girls out. You know, she's willing to fight the best, and it's just a matter of time. We've got to force them to do it because a lot of the female world champions out there as well, they're happy to just defend against people that they know they're capable of beating them against. Whereas, you know, as boxing fans, we got to force Chantelle into those positions.
Now, Chantelle stopped Vivian Obanoff. Vivian Obanoff, apparently, according to Chantelle, I didn't know this before, said that she wasn't in the right mental state or something along those lines. Bypassing that for the moment, Vivian Obanoff, obviously, we saw stop Natasha Jonas. She went the distance with Katie Taylor. Is that sort of a barometer of where Chantelle is at and the kind of power that she possesses?
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand what Vivian's saying about that she wasn't in the right mental state. She got beaten from the start to the end, and she got, you know, she was hurt on numerous occasions, and threw her best shots at Chantelle. It's just you're in there against a completely different animal than Natasha Jonas, and you know, and I also feel like, you know, Katie Taylor's got unbelievable speed, unbelievable skill set. She's brilliant to watch. You know, Chantelle, what she may lack in that, she makes up for in power, toughness, strength. And this is over 10 rounds. This is over 10-2. So it's a brilliant fight. You know, those two mixing it. You know, we even thought Natasha Jonas is in that mix, but I think she really needs to go back and assess where she's at with her life and career. But you know, for Chantelle, it's just, you know, I'd love that fight. It's real skill boxer versus real tough fighter, and the blend of styles will be a phenomenal one when it happens. But in the meantime, we've got to go and do a job on Saturday night.
Now, this is the first time that I've sat down with you since you went to Jeddah. Unfortunate on your behalf that George Groves didn't come away with a victory against Callum Smith. Now you've had a little bit of time to sort of settle and look back on the fight. What did you make of the evening?
I thought, you know, it was a real pick and fight. You know, George was getting his jab off. Callum boxed a really, really patient fight. Dropped back really well. George overreached a few times, and he just left his head there after a right hook. And that's the shot that, you know, we were always aware of. His catch left hook. I mean, it caught everybody with it. So and. Yeah, it caught him sweet shot, and in hindsight probably could have took a knee, but you know, his senses were rattled, and he stayed on his feet and then got hit with a brilliant right hook to the body. And you know, that's one of the things that Callum Smith is really tremendous at, is his finishing. But up until then, you know, we were up on one card, down on another, and even. But you know, not taking anything about Callum boxed a brilliant fight, and I think he's a real freak of nature at that weight. He's massive. You know, it's like looking across the ring at a cruiserweight when you're boxing him. Just the size of him, he's just not filled out, but just he's a huge stature and specimen. And I think he's going to do brilliantly in the next couple of years.
Now, was that something you'd anticipate? I'm sure you wouldn't have been ignorant to the fact that he's a big super middleweight. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to work that out. But George is somebody who, throughout his career, has been a big super middleweight. Do you think it was the weight of Callum Smith, or do you think it was a more technical outcome or technical thing that decided the outcome of the fight?
No, I mean, it was a very technical fight, and they knew that they had the ability to step back. And if you watch it, he steps back well, but because he's so big for the weight, he covers a lot of space. So you've got to double up your feints. If you fall short, you've got to hit him on a third shot, feint, then drive it in. And George didn't hit him. He didn't catch him with a meaningful shot to sway it, to give himself confidence. But it was a really good fight. It was a good fight, an entertaining one. It was a bit of a shame that it wasn't over here, and it was in Jeddah. But all credit towards Gallagher and Team Smith. They did a great job. But I also think he's a really quality fighter. He's gonna cause a lot of havoc in that 12-stone division. So it's George got hit with a great shot.
Now, the way you're talking sort of indicates to me that George is done with the 12-stone division. I wanted to just talk about something after the fight. He gave a very, very honest and open interview. One thing he did say was that it was kind of, he wants to take some time off to be with his family, which obviously has a young family, but it seems to me since he won the world title, which was a very emotionally charged night, he's then gone into the World Boxing Super Series. He's had the heavily hyped build-up with Chris Eubank Jr. How much of a factor do you think mental fatigue was going into that fight?
We were in camp for 7 months. When he did his shoulder in February, and then we had like 3 weeks off whilst it was sort of the scar was healing, and then we were pretty much in rehab in the shoulder and in camp from like mid-March the whole way through. It was a very challenging year, and we're not going to say at all. We've had a guy called Ben Carraway, we had Kevin Lidlow, did a phenomenal job on the shoulder and helped him, and we had a good amount of time with it firing. A little bit of mental burnout. He's also been a pro for nearly 10 years now as well, so a long old time. And he's been in the gym since he was 11 years of age boxing, and since he was 9 years of age kickboxing. So he's just been on one fight after another fight, and he just needs a bit of time, a bit of a chance to recover. If you look at the biggest gaps in his career was pretty much from when he's lost to Badou Jack till his first fight with De Luisa with me. If you look back on it, it's only about 4.5 months. And then he had another bit of time off between the Gutneck fight, the Chudnov fight, but that was November, and then he boxed in, I think it was like April. Was it May? Yeah, so that was still, we were in camp the whole time, so he's just had like a never-ending camp. And as a boxer, you need a bit of time. He said his wife and him had another baby in the camp as well. So it's just, there's a lot of change in his life, and he just needs a little bit of time to just mentally recharge. You have to know if you get up in the morning and you look in the mirror and you really want to. You want to fight. You want to come in. You want to put your heart and soul into the gym and train. And he will only know that whenever he has the rest of the year off. If he gets that bug back to really come back and say, I want to reinvent myself. I want to go out there, potentially move up or stay at the same weight. There's so many different options for him, but it's the only thing that's gonna really make that apparent is if he has time.
Have you had that conversation with George since? Have you had a discussion about future plans, whether it be at super middleweight or light heavyweight? It would seem to me from afar that staying at super middleweight will provide certainly the bigger paydays and the more interesting fights from that regard. Is that something that you've discussed with him?
He can make 12 stone. He can definitely do it. It's this camp we had to limit the sparring because of the shoulder. Sparring is a massive indicator to bring his weight down, but he still did the weight. It wasn't a problem with the weight. and I went and spent Sunday with him, and then we went for dinner. Me, him, and his wife went for dinner on Tuesday as well. So but we just don't want to talk about boxing. You know what I mean? Like, me and George go running at least twice a week, 3 times a week when we're in camp. He's probably my only fighter that I can stand there and we can go out and do a 45-minute run and not even talk about fighting. We can just talk about life and just trivial stuff. Really, he's a friend for life. You know what I mean? He's an absolute gentleman, and he's going to be one of my mates for a very long time, whether he boxes or whether he doesn't. And we just need to sort of give him and his mind and his a bit of time to switch off.
Somebody who's had like a storied career. He's been a real credit to the sport when he's been involved in it. Always been in big fights. He's made some good money. What's your gut feeling? What do you think? I appreciate it's not necessarily your decision to make, but what's your gut feeling on George?
I don't really want to express that. Honestly, he's got fights in him. He can win. But it's up to because I don't want to put anything out there. I don't want to put any vibes out there so he feels like he has to do it for me, or his decision has to come within himself, And his last fight was for a world. His last fight just there was for, the Ring magazine number one belt. He's such a huge name in the division, and he has been for. He fought Carl Froch when he was 24 years of age. He's just been a great credit to the sport, and he's been in massive fights the whole way through. So he owes it to himself to have a little bit of time off and reflect. And we could see him buzzing back, knocking down the door at the end of November, or we get into December and we could see him saying, "I don't really know." So we'll just take it from there.
Okay, just moving on to Luke Campbell. Last time we saw in the ring, Yvan Mendy avenged his loss. Where do we stand with Luke? He's been made mandatory for the WBC.
He has. We've got the potential possibly to be fighting for the interim belt. We don't really know where Mikey Garcia is going at the moment. He's got rumours of him fighting, defending his IBF against Richard Comey, and also WBC. Comey's rated number 4 or 5 in the WBC or something like that. So we're just going to, once again, it's a waiting game with Luke, but we are going to get him out before the end of the year. He's going to be back in camp next week. He's actually coming down tomorrow to sort of sit and have a discussion with me about sort of where we're going to go, what opportunities we've got on the table. And what was great about that is, he avenged his loss and had done it in such a spectacular form on a huge stage. He didn't get a post-fight interview, but he did it on a massive stage. So they kicked him out of the ring to get a Bellew versus Usyk fucking face off. But we'll have to have a couple of words about that. But he deserved a little bit more credit because it was a great performance.
Being your first fight with Luke, how pleased were you that was the outcome? And I know you're very meticulous. Moving forward, without obviously over-divulging, what do you still see that you need to work on or improve on with Luke Campbell?
There's plenty to improve on, he's looking a lot more comfortable in the pocket, but it's just about who we're up against. I want the Linares rematch for him, because I believe he can beat him and beat him well. Linares' fight was at 137, but in terms of a technical aspect, there's a lot more we can improve on. We can also still physically needs a little bit of work to sort of fill him out a little bit more, because he's does the weight so easy. He came into camp 8 pounds over the weight. It's like, it's crazy. But it's just I'm gonna get the most out of him in the next fight or the fight after, and it's going to take a good 6 to 8 months to really develop everything. But there was big improvements even in the short space of time we were working. So I was really happy with the Mendy fight, happy with that.
Just finally, because I know you've got to shoot, Josh Taylor, 3 weeks on Saturday, enters the World Boxing Super Series. You've just finished one, you're starting another one. How's Josh looking ahead of his bout with Ryan Martin?
he's looking really, really well. Just come off Boxer of the Year as well. Great credit to him. Yeah, I mean, he's buzzing. You know, he's excited. This is going to be the biggest year of his life. He's just rented a flat down the road as well, so he's committed to this year of training like in a huge way. He just looks focused, feels focused, punching hard on the pads, sparring really, really well, keeping his concentration. One of the things that I really had to have a word with him about, not letting his emotions rule his boxing style. I'm looking forward to the fight against Martin. It's another tricky fight for us. He's good defensively, big for the weight as well. Even though he's a lightweight moving up, he's a big guy, good structure on him. Got a good trainer behind him as well, and Abel Sanchez. So looking forward to the challenge. I feel like this could be one of the trickiest fights for us in the WBSS, because he's got the ability to adapt to Brian Martin. With the likes of Baranchek or Yigit, that we're going to get the winner of that. I thought what you get with Baranchek, you also know what you get with Yigit, and then you've got Prograis versus Flanagan. That's an interesting fight as well. But Prograis is a big puncher, but he's very similar in each fight. Whereas with Martin, the more you analyse him, he can box on the back foot, he can come forward. He's a really well-rounded fighter.
Okay, and just finally, World Boxing Super Series, they have their own sort of way of doing things that we see on TV, but it's also the same away from the cameras as well, in the sense of signing up to the tournament means that you box sort of as and when. I mean, Jeddah, for example, you box as and when they tell you to. Going through that experience with George Groves, how beneficial do you think that's going to be for you now you've got Josh Taylor? You kind of know what that's all about now.
Yeah, I know what it's about, and I know, it's they value themselves, and a lot of promoters are indebted to the fighter, whereas these guys feel like it is a tournament and you have to show up, and it's kind of different and not necessarily a bad thing. It's like, okay, cool, you got to respect that. So I can't let him switch off, because we have to have adequate amount of time to prepare. So deadlines change, they do things. I mean, they have an incredible schedule where they must be inundated with events that they have to continue to do, and with that might take a little bit, more last minute planning. So you have to be ready. In all honesty, do I think Gassiev was prepared for that fight? No, against Usyk. I think it was sprung on him reasonably late. Looked fleshy. Didn't look like he was. Didn't look like he was really focused. Usyk, clever. He was noticing the patterns and kept himself in great shape, and he was obviously, training more consistent. So, that's something that I've had a word with Josh about. And luckily with George, we had a thing in our contract that was, you have to give us 8 weeks. So we were just ticking over and ready to get into hard camp. So it's interesting.
Okay, Shane. Well, as always, it's a pleasure sitting down with you. I could sit here and speak to you all day, but you don't want that, and we'll let you get off. But thanks very much for speaking to Boxing Social. Look forward to catching up with you soon.
Appreciate it. Thanks very much.